Today we have a crazy story of entitled relatives wanting somebody to sacrifice their young adulthood for the sake of their family. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my mother tells me happy birthday and love you. We haven't talked since October 2023. Should I reply? I have gotten no contact with my mom, and today is my birthday. The last message I've sent goes something like, "Message me back when you can apologize and come to your senses because the way I was treated at your house was verbally abusive." She has cheated on my dad, went through a divorce, kicked my dad out of the house even though it was in his name. We lose the house and move into my grandma's home, stay there with my mom's new boyfriend of 3 weeks. We knew she was seeing him for about 4 months at work. Left my grandma's house after about 3 years because they were smoking in their basement. My grandma stated to not smoke in her home. Then I went bouncing house to house for a year and a half, 2 weeks at a time, because my dad got a home. Then my mom moved 3 hours away and they had me move schools during spring break. Stayed there at my mom's until I was done. Moved back to my dad's after a year. Then moved back to my mom's because my dad couldn't deal with me. And then my mom and stepdad decided to move again. This time to Arkansas, where they have no family except my stepdad's sister. So we moved and couldn't even bring everything we had. No beds, no dresser, for me anyways, and a few other things we couldn't fit in the U-Haul. So we moved anyway. We got to the house and it only took me 2 weeks to not like it there. My stepdad was still verbally abusive and my mom never stood up for me. I was barely 18 at the time, so I moved out of state at the end of the month, and it's been so much better. I've dealt with my stepdad calling me names, saying I don't do anything, saying I need to get out, also to the point he tells me I need to ask for food that he cooks because I do nothing, and I couldn't get water without asking as well. Like what? So I never asked, and that's when my mom finally says something. My mom and stepdad are still together, so it's whatever, but she messaged me this morning, "Happy 21st birthday, hope you have a good day, love you." I really don't want to respond with anything. Should I? My question for OP would be, is it really worth it? I mean, realistically, does it change anything replying to that message, opening up that door again? And if it were to be a negative experience, is your status quo not better just leaving it as is? Flat Educator 5767 wrote, If it were me, I don't think I'd want to open that door again. I'd at least give it more time so that I could give that whole crap you went through some perspective. You're still processing all that. If you can afford a therapist to help you unpack that type of trauma, I'd strongly suggest you do that before you open the door to your mother again. She sounds toxic and unstable, and although she may love you, which I'm sure she does, just not a healthy love, it does not mean that you should be having a relationship with her right now. You need to heal and put space between you and she. OP responded saying, "I can't afford a therapist right now. I've been trying to since I moved away. Do I say I need space or just leave her on red?" Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, entitled parents make terrible house guests. Some friends with kids were visiting recently from another state. When they told me they would be coming through my city, I didn't offer to host them because they don't correct their children. However, when asked, I felt put on the spot and let them stay. Big mistake. I had 2 guest rooms set up, one for parents and one for kids. 2 kids had expensive camping mats, sheets, sleeping bags, comforters, and pillows. Oh, and their own TV. I have a living room with a casual, comfy couch and a sitting room with a formal white couch. Apparently, their 11-year-old decided to sleep on my white couch. I was already in bed, but 11-year-old, who'd been wearing the same clothes for days, had his parents' blessing. When told about it in the morning, I was irritated and expressed that. Next night, I see kiddo heading towards my couch with blankets. I told his mom he needed sheets to sleep on my white couch. Meltdown ensued. Said he was welcome to sleep on comfy couch without sheets. He did, after much consoling and coddling from his mom, and blared his tablet until late in the living room, right outside my bedroom. Next morning, they get up at 5 and yell at each other across my house. "Don't forget your swimsuit," all while letting the door between my garage and kitchen slam about 20 times while loading their car. They also ordered food delivery for dinner for just them and didn't even ask if I wanted anything, left my kitchen a hot mess, and my guest toilet covered in urine. Never again. My question for most people hearing a story like this, if these were your friends before they stayed and did all that, are they your friends afterwards? And also, would you tell them all the things they did wrong, even if it's like through text remotely? Lisa Knows Best wrote, "Now you know to say no. That sucks. How can people be so ungrateful and oblivious to common courtesy?" I ask this daily, but I just can't wrap my head around it. OP responded saying, "Thanks, it does suck." The mom told me about one of her kids not being invited to a family function last year, as it involved a ceremony and the host was concerned he would be disruptive. She was very offended and said her kid would never do anything like that. After being around him, I get why he wasn't invited, and I'm sad for all of them that they didn't take him being excluded by his own family as a wake-up call about his antisocial behaviors. His mouth and attitude were shocking. Our next story is, my mother guilt trips me about not seeing her more, but I like having distance and space. Advice? Long story short, my mother and I have a complicated relationship. She is very controlling and overbearing and wants things her way. She always has something negative to say. I suspect that she's a narcissist, but I don't know for certain. At a minimum, I think she has narcissistic tendencies. For my mental health, I've distanced myself from her considerably. We live about 30 minutes away from each other. We still talk and see each other on occasion, mainly because she's pretty involved with my daughter, her granddaughter, and likes to have her visit about 1 weekend a month. But she constantly guilt trips me about not seeing her enough. She makes snide comments, picks fights about it, etc. And here's the thing, I genuinely don't want to see her more. I don't enjoy going up there. She drains me and stresses me out. I like only seeing her a couple of times a month and keeping our talks to a minimum. But I've tried countless times to explain this to her and she doesn't get it. She just flips it around on me and turns it into a fight about how I'm a terrible daughter, how I'll regret this when she's dead, etc. Any advice? Realistically, I think the issue here is obviously the mom, and the problem here is, as much as they want to try to turn this around on OP and say, "You're gonna regret this when I'm no longer around," the problem here is they've never valued or considered OP's side or OP's feelings really properly in the way they've conducted themselves. In a way, the mom's kind of pushing OP away time and time again, and then saying, "Come on, you're gonna regret making all this distance between us when I'm gone." Gravediggin' Dave wrote, "Your mother, but you as well, needs to learn that 'no, I don't want to' is a complete sentence that needs no further explanation if you don't want to. Narcissists can't be reasoned with, or people with narc tendencies, so just tell her, 'No, Mom, I don't want to see you more often,' and to be frank, maybe limit your contact with her even further. Why does she need to be involved with your child? If your mother wants to see your child, she needs to behave and respect your boundaries. If not, well, she can eat dirt. Explain to your kid that her grandma is behaving badly, so you can't go to see her the next little while." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my in-laws see my newborn the day he was born? For some backstory, my wife and I had a 24-week pregnancy end in tragedy roughly 2 years before this story. This left us feeling very protective of our most recent pregnancy. Our son decided he wanted to wait until the last possible second to arrive, so we were scheduled for an induction. The entire time we were in the hospital, I was constantly getting bombarded by her parents with texts asking for updates on what was happening. I did my best to keep up with them, until my wife got frustrated and told me to leave them on red. At roughly 7 p.m., my wife gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and I could not have been happier. We let everyone know he was here and were immediately asked what room we were in so that her parents could come see him. We hadn't even left the delivery room yet, no visitors allowed there, and told them that we were too tired for visitors that night. They constantly hounded us until we got to the maternity floor around midnight and we went to bed. We awoke to angry texts and voicemails from my father-in-law saying how disappointed he was that we were so selfish and careless for not letting them come see their grandson. My mother-in-law even had the audacity to say, "I might as well mourn this one too." All of this gutted my wife as she had just pushed a human being out of her and she was already emotionally exhausted. For the remainder of our stay at the hospital, they refused to come visit and wouldn't talk to us no matter what we said. The attitude kept up for the first 2 weeks of our son's life until I forced a confrontation over the phone where we were berated for not keeping them updated enough, not letting them come invade our space at midnight in the hospital, and making her father-in-law waste a PTO day. My son was born after he would have gotten off work, so it wouldn't have made a difference. In the end, I apologized just so my wife could stop stressing, as it was affecting her recovery. So, am I the jerk? OP's clearly not the jerk here, and honestly apologizing was absolutely just about the worst thing they could do. Like, I know it appeases both sides and makes it kind of do a ceasefire for now, but the more you feed those controlling people, the more they're going to try to lord over you. I get it, it was the easiest thing, but with OP apologizing, they let their boundaries just get steamrolled. Send Pics of Dogs wrote, "Not the jerk, they seem very controlling. I would be mindful of their behavior moving forward. Maybe once everyone is home and settled, you can have a talk with your wife about how she feels about their behavior overall." Cynically Sin said, "They sound like the kind of people that are building a nursery at their home and will have no problem telling OP how to raise their baby." Their baby, meaning the grandparents' baby, because they will maintain control until somebody puts them in their place. I couldn't imagine apologizing to them after the way they behaved. I would have told them to freak off and they can see the baby at 3 months if they get their crap together. Our next story is, I will never meet my mother's expectations. 22-year-old female. Realizing I'll never be able to make my mom happy or proud of me, I just got my undergrad degree in 3 years, 4.0 GPA, cited in multiple academic journals, worked multiple jobs all through college, and now I'm preparing to go into the Peace Corps. I have never wanted for anything in my life, so I've worked hard at school to show respect to my parents, and I'm now pursuing foreign volunteering to give back after receiving amazing opportunities as a young adult. It's not good enough for my mom. In her eyes, I'm abandoning the family, trying to run away and leaving because I hate the family. She has not once told me she's proud of where my life is going, that she's excited for me. She doesn't ask me questions, and when I share that I'm going into the Peace Corps with relatives and family friends, they've said to me, "Oh, your mom said you're staying home for the next year." Strangers are more excited for me than my own mother. I'm also applying for Fulbright grants if Peace Corps doesn't work out. My mom wants me to apply for Spain in the UK. I want to apply to places in the Balkans to teach English where it will have more of an impact. She wants me to do something like this, but only if it's glamorous and it's someplace she could visit. But when I do come home, it's, "You never tell us when you're coming and going." I come home and I'm demanding, selfish, entitled, ungrateful, and I can't recognize how much my mom has sacrificed for me. She wants me to stay home, but when I do, I'm wasting all their money. When I ask to borrow our car to take myself to work, my 17-year-old brother with a part-time job 10 minutes away gets priority, versus me who's working in a traditional office environment an hour from home. She calls my deadbeat brother, who has physically abused her at 5 a.m. every day, to walk him home from his night shift job, and then complains that I don't work enough and that I beg them for money. I don't. I pay a portion of my rent, utilities, groceries, gas for the car when I use it, my own clothing, etc. When said other brother mooches off my parents at every turn and uses the money to buy hard drugs. I'm really just done with her behavior. She talks bad about me to all her friends. They look at me like I'm some brat who has no idea of her privilege when I'm trying to build the next part of my life with the values I hold dear at the center. I will never be good enough for her. I think it's obviously a great thing that OP has recognized. This is somebody that you'll just never make proud. OP obviously has worked really hard, and it's honestly fantastic that they are in some kind of place of privilege, because you know what? That easily will allow them to pivot away from this person who clearly doesn't even have much of an interest in OP's life, and allow them to start focusing on things for themselves and what makes them fulfilled. Q Moreno 1775 wrote, "This is abusive. I wouldn't be surprised if your mother had an undiagnosed personality disorder. Sounds like your mom might be a narcissist and you can't win no matter what you do. You need to separate yourself from your parents ASAP and get to a point where you're financially independent. You might want to consider joining the military or US State Department. You could easily be an officer if you're fit enough." Bopper responded adding, "Yeah, sounds narcissistic to me too." She simultaneously wants you to do well in school because it looks good for her, but then she's also jealous because you're doing better than her. She's happy for you to go overseas to some cool place, but not if it's a place she doesn't want to visit or other people won't find cool. She doesn't want you staying away because then she has no control of you, but doesn't want you dropping because she can't control you. So no, you won't meet your mother's expectations because they're continually moving and have nothing to do with you, only her. This next story is, I'm 23, female, and I still need my parents' approval and they're conservative and old-minded. I mean, I am aware of that, but I can't help yet expect they will understand me and I need to explain myself. How can I overcome this? Mind you, I'm from a second world country, post-Soviet country to be specific, where children don't leave their home until married. Anyone with similar situation? How did you overcome this? Please, I could use some advice. I just think realistically, if there is even a slightest avenue for you to gain some kind of independence, that's the way to go. I'm just of the opinion that somebody that's grown up in this culture has these expectations and behaviors, and OP knows it, they're not likely to come around. And realistically, OP needs to be able to put themselves first and try to protect themselves. Tiki Taki Tom Tom wrote, "It must be hard living in a society where that has been a long-standing expectation. On one hand, you should be able to freely make your own choices. That's based on my, US, belief. However, on the other hand, you shouldn't be hard on your parents either because that's all they've known their entire lives." Despite such norms, however, I do think there are a couple of things that make the exception to change parents' ingrained views. One such thing is being mind-blowingly successful. There are many cultures in which impose strict rules on the children, yet go very easy on them if they make up for it in other ways. Our next story is, my entitled sister and brother-in-law wanted me to sacrifice my youth for my nephews. This happened in my early 20s when I was still a college student. I stayed at my sister/brother-in-law's house for a while. They have 3 kids. Back then their eldest 2 were under 3. I did a fair bit with them, played toys with them, watched shows, read to them, but I was also a typical college kid who occasionally wanted to party and go out with friends. My sister and brother-in-law hated this and would shame me. They wanted me to go to college and come back home as soon as my classes finished. I wasn't even near the most wild college kid. It might be once a fortnight I would go to a party. Every time I would tell them that I was going to be out, it was, "But what about your family? You need to be closer to your family. Your friends won't be forever. You should be spending time with your nephews." I was honestly treated like some deadbeat parent for wanting to enjoy my youth. So is it wrong of me to say, in some ways I feel like that kind of behavior and that line of thinking would actually be a very hampering thing to deal with? As in, you have the mindset of, well, I can't go out and live my life, I want to stay close to my family. They're all I know, it's what's safe. That really, you're not going to live much life? Like, even if OP did feel similar to how they were feeling, which is, you should be spending time with your nephews, it may not even be the best life choice for OP anyways. Wishy-Washy12 wrote, "My aunt used this on me once trying to get me to watch her kids yet again. My reply shut her up for a while anyway. I am thinking of the family I'd like to start, but I can't go on dates or meet people if I'm always at your house watching your kids." Our next story is, selfish parents? Am I wrong for thinking it's odd that a couple won't be having birthday parties for their children, but is planning a gender reveal party for pregnancy number 2? So no party for your kid, but you'll throw yourself another gender reveal for your second pregnancy. I think it's selfish. Am I wrong? The rationale for no birthday parties is they don't want the child to grow up thinking their birthday is more important than Christmas. I would assume most people do not understand their line of thinking here. Who in the history of the world has had a birthday party and then immediately turned around and said, "You know what? My birthday is more important than Christmas." And even so, is it a bad thing if somebody personally feels their birthday is more important to them than Christmas is? What actually foundationally is bad about that? And I don't think selfishness is an argument either, because you can have a preference in what you think is more important to you and still not turn around and do selfish things or expect selfish actions. Heaston there forward wrote, "Do they plan on throwing graduation parties or for other achievements? Will they throw parties just for the fun of it? If their rationale is they don't want the kids to think they're too important, couldn't they throw a party and request people donate to a charity of the child's choice?" Our next story is, I'm 15 and pregnant. Can I refuse my mother-in-law rights to see my child? This one's a long one. She disrespects me, pregnant soon to be. I'm only 15, my boyfriend, her son, is 16. To help understand what kind of mother she is, the first time my boyfriend welcomed her back into his life after years, she was supposed to pick him up from school. She called him unexpectedly as school was over, telling me not to get on the bus and that she'd pick me up. I waited hours. She never came. She continues to prove her incapability to be a crutch for him, as she is never on time. She dropped me and my boyfriend off at a lake and said she'd be back in an hour. 3 hours later, we call her and she tells us we're rushing her and throws a fit. She's friends with a man who recorded me and my boyfriend and herself naked in the bathroom, either changing or using the toilet or showering. She said she was scared that he was going to end her, but continues to buddy-buddy with him as if they were childhood best friends. In reality, he is only her domestically abusive ex-boyfriend's brother who's obsessed and desires more than a friendship with her, which she claims she will never see him that way, yet it seems as if she leads him on with the excuse of, "I have a flirty personality." The man was drunk one night and screamed at me that I asked for too much of my boyfriend's mother, when all I asked was to get my laptop from my house, a 10-minute drive, making me cry. I have PTSD and have had my father yell in my face and put his hands on me. His mother stayed quiet and allowed this to happen. Then after the man left, she sided with us, saying he was crazy and had anger issues, but never brought it up to him, taking his side to his face. One morning I woke up really hungry. I hadn't eaten the night before or the current morning whatsoever because we're low on money. His mother had $100 worth of food stamps. When I went to ask if I could get a $3 salad from Casey's, his mother yelled at me not to tell her what to do with her money. She put her hands on me, threatened to call the cops, etc. There's much more, but that's a lot to get into. These are just some random examples. I decided enough was enough and stress was bad for my baby. Reached out on Insta. It went something like this. His mom said, "You want to talk? We can talk in person. I'm not about to sit here and text because someone will take it the wrong way. I'm getting ready for work anywho." I reply, "I do not want to talk to you in person. What I have won't be misinterpreted. I've tried talking to you in person. You catch an attitude if I'm not picky with my words, and I tend to match energy. I can't deal with stress and yelling. You may not care, considering when I reminded you I'm pregnant last time, your response was, 'So?' But I care about my baby, and I take into mind what my emotions will cause upon my child." His mom replied, "I won't sit back and be disrespected over and over again by a child. You are very manipulative with my child, and what you won't do is use that baby as leverage to hold over somebody's head. I'm getting ready for work now." I replied, "You call me manipulative, yet you screamed and cried to your child in the same hour. You don't want to be disrespected? Me either. Respect is earned. You can claim I use the baby as leverage, but every statement I make before bringing up I'm pregnant is valid. For example, I have to eat. I am pregnant. Why are you yelling? I am pregnant, etc. Try again. Sure, call me a child. If that's the case, you're the adult, act like it." And me replying to his mom's message of, "I'm getting ready for work now." And this means nothing to me. You say this, and when you come back, it's a roulette of what's Chelsea going to waste her money on this time. Will it be weed and alcohol? Will it be gambling? Oh, or will it be giving money to her ex-husband? Find out next episode. While you're busy wasting thousands, I managed to live off of $500 a month, only spending it on food and your son like you should be doing. Give me a reason to respect you and I will." His mom replied, "Bye, kid." I replied, "Thanks for proving my point. No, you are not welcomed in my baby's life. You are immature and a narcissist." His mom replied, "And you won't and can't stop me, silly girl." I replied, "I can. You have no right to tell me what I can and can't do with my child. If I do not want you seeing my child, you will not see him or her, period. I know my rights, minor or not. As a parent, I will not be obligated to allow you visits into my child's life if you are being a problem." She responded, "We will see. I'm done with your childish butt." I replied, "Sure, I am childish. We sure will see. As far as my kid will know, you died before you was born. Learn respect. Not everything is given to you." She said, "You're done treating my child the way you do him also." I replied, "Boyfriend's name loves me. I love him. Our future as a family will only grow without you in the picture." Continue to prove my point. He waited all night for you to come home. I stayed up texting him till he fell asleep. He told me he couldn't even get through to you. His mom replied, "My dad was a cop and my uncle is a judge. I don't care what Google says. LOL. I replied, "LOL, and my dad's the CEO of Home Depot. Doesn't matter. Let's go to court about this." His mom replied, "I don't have time to entertain your bull crap. Go watch TV or something." I said, "Yeah, entertain my bull crap. You're a 33-year-old crybaby." I'm just wondering, where is any other support system in OP's life? OP keeps going on and on about their mother-in-law, which isn't even actually their mother-in-law, it's their boyfriend's mom. Considering OP's 15 years old and pregnant, where is their parents? Does OP at 15 just live with their boyfriend and their boyfriend's mom? I mean, the whole situation is like, what is going on? Tali Leah wrote, "First, this woman isn't really your mother-in-law. You're not even married to her son, you're just a 15-year-old girl who's pregnant with her soon-to-be grandchild. Second, you shouldn't even be spending that much time over at her house. Please go home and get into a situation where it's more healthy for you and the baby. Third, get as much good support as you can from those around you that you trust explicitly and not his mother. And last, where are your parents in all of this? I've not seen anything in the post regarding your own parents." This next story is, "And this is why I'm not allowed to have nice things for myself. I was going to the laundromat with my mom to wash some clothes. My mom, however, was frustrated for whatever reason, and I wasn't sure why. Meanwhile, I had everything ready. I was just waiting for it to be time for us to go, and while I was waiting, I was playing on my Nintendo Switch. She came to my room and told me, 'It's time to go,' so I got up and went out the door with her. On our way to the bus stop, she chose to continuously complain about how I did nothing to help her with the clothes. I did try to help, but she told me to step out of the way. As we got to the bus stop, she continued blabbering at me like a 13-year-old child while she was going through her bag and making sure she had everything she needed. Meanwhile, I was still on my Switch deflecting every negative word she had to say to me. She looked and realized that she had forgot her change at our house and told me to go back and get it. Of course, she asked me with an attitude. I didn't want to argue with her, so I just got up and did what she asked, and before I left, I placed my Switch on the cart of clothes. When I arrived at the house, I couldn't get inside because the door was locked and my mom never gave me the key. Also, my brother was still in the house and I attempted to knock on the door, but I heard water running from where the bathroom was and assumed he was taking a shower and couldn't hear the door. I got tired of knocking and decided to walk back to the bus stop. On my way, I see my mom coming back from the bus stop and saying, "We're not going." I walked back beside her and explained why I couldn't get in the house to give her her change. When we finally reached the front door of our house, she asked me, "Do you know where you put your Switch?" I said, "Yes, I put it on the cart." She then tells me, "No you didn't, you left it on the bus stop seat." I told her, "Why would I leave my Nintendo Switch on the bus stop? I remember putting it on the cart." She continued to deny that I left it on the cart, and I said, "If I go back to the bus stop and I don't see the Switch on the seat, I know it has to be in the cart somewhere." And she just told me, "Alright, go ahead." So I walked all the way back to the bus stop, looked at the seat and didn't see the Switch. And because it was so hot and sunny, I was exhausted and tired as I walked back to the house. And then I told my mom, "Guess what I didn't see at the bus stop today? My Nintendo Switch." She told me, "Well, that's too bad. You want to check the cart and see if it's in there?" I agreed and decided to look inside the cart, only to not see it in there. I told her, "I don't see it in there either." And all she said was, "Well, then it looks like someone stole it." "Yeah, Mom, and apparently you allowed it." OP updated saying, "Update y'all. So I told my brother about what happened with my Switch. And he told me, it wasn't stolen, she just hid it from you. I saw her take it out of the cart while you left to go to the bus stop. Afterwards, I got even more upset about that, but she didn't expect what I did next. I went back into her room while she was out to the store, and I stole it back and made sure she never found out. To this day, I still have it." Well, sounds to me like there's some very healthy communication going on in this family. I don't know if they tried to hide it to try to sell a point to OP that they need to be more responsible for their things. I will say though, this is a very good learning lesson not to set your stuff down and just assume other people are going to watch it. Back when I was a little kid and I got one of those brand new shiny Game Boy Advances, I basically did almost exactly the same thing OP did, which is I set it down somewhere and went back inside, and some older neighbor kid on a bike was acting all interested. By the time I went inside and then came back outside, guess what? The older kid on the bike obviously gone, and obviously so was the Game Boy Advance. Had my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh game in it too. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Entitled Parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.